All right, ready to dive into some high finance.
Bring it on.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into the ICBC Annual Report 2023.
Excellent choice. Always interesting to see what the best bank in China is up to.
Best bank in China, huh? That's straight from Global Finance, so they must be doing something right.
Right. And one of the first things that jumps out is their global reach.
Oh yeah, ICBC's not just a big fish in the Chinese pond.
Nope, they're operating all over the globe. To give you an idea, their overseas institutions alone, just their overseas institutions, hold assets totaling a mind-blowing USD 420,208 million.
Wow, that's more than some countries' entire GDP.
You can say that again.
Okay, so with a global giant like this, let's break down their core business segments.
Sounds good.
The report highlights corporate banking, personal banking, and treasury operations.
A classic combo for a diversified financial institution.
So they've got their fingers in a lot of pies.
You could say that. Let's start with corporate banking. They're serving the big leagues.
Okay, who are we talking about here?
Corporations, governments, big financial institutions, you name it. Think about the massive loans, the complex financing deals, and all the support for international trade.
So essentially, they're the financial backbone of global commerce.
Exactly. Now, on the other side, you've got personal banking. This is where you and I come in as everyday consumers.
Right, so this is where ICBC is aiming to be the no I-1 personal bank.
That's their goal, offering everything from wealth management to those personal loans we all need sometimes.
Makes sense. They want to be the one-stop shop for all your financial needs, from everyday banking to planning for the future.
Exactly.
And then there's treasury operations. What exactly do they do?
Well, think of them as the control center. They're managing the bank's own assets and liabilities, making sure all the financial gears are turning smoothly.
So kind of like the behind-the-scenes heroes making sure everything runs smoothly.
Exactly. And it's the interaction between these three segments, corporate banking, personal banking, and treasury operations, that really contributes to ICBC's overall financial health.
Gotcha, so they've got a lot going on. But are they actually profitable? Let's take a look at the financial highlights.
Let's do it. Their net profit for 2023 hit RMB 365,116 million.
Okay, hold on. So that's a slight increase from the previous year? Not bad, considering all the economic uncertainty we've been seeing globally.
Agreed. They're not just staying afloat, they're growing. But there's a little blip on the radar. The report mentions declining net interest margins.
Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Isn't that a concern for banks?
It definitely is, and it's a trend we're seeing across the industry, fluctuating interest rates and all that.
So what's ICBC doing about it?
Well, they're not sitting still. They're focusing more on non-interest income.
So less reliance on traditional lending profits.
Exactly. They're boosting revenue streams from things like fees and commissions.
Okay, so diversifying their income. Is it working?
It seems to be. Their fee and commission income actually ranks first among their peers.
That's impressive. So it sounds like they are adapting to the challenges. But what about efficiency? How well are they using their assets to generate profit?
That's where we look at metrics like return on average assets, or ROA.
ROA, right. And what's ICBC's ROA looking like?
It's sitting at 0.87%. Now, for every dollar of assets, they're generating almost a cent in profit. Not too shabby.
I'll take that return.
And from an investor's perspective, the return on equity, or ROE, is another key figure. And for ICBC, it's 10.66%, meaning good returns for those holding their stock.
Music to any investor's ears. But what about those of us considering buying in? Let's talk about how they plan to create value for shareholders.
Well, the most direct way is through dividends. They're proposing a cash dividend of RMB 3.064 pre-tax for every 10 shares.
So you get a piece of the profit pie just for owning the stock.
Exactly. Now, the report doesn't go into specifics, but another tool they've used in the past is share buybacks.
Right, share buybacks. And how does that benefit shareholders?
When a company buys back its own shares, it reduces the number of shares out there, which can boost the value of the remaining shares.
So the value gets concentrated. Good for existing shareholders.
Yeah.
Okay, so dividends and potential share buybacks are on the table. But what about their long-term growth strategy? How are they planning to stay ahead and keep those profits rolling in?
Two big areas: digital transformation and green finance. They're going all in on technology.
We're living in a digital world, so that makes sense.
Right, especially when it comes to their mobile banking app. They're packing it with features to make banking a breeze.
Gotta stay convenient these days. What about green finance?
This is where they're aligning their business with sustainable development goals, supporting things like renewable energy and green infrastructure.
So trying to be both profitable and responsible.
Exactly. It's a win-win, attracting a growing number of investors who prioritize ESG factors.
Okay, so they're making moves in the green space. Now let's zoom in on their different business segments.
Sounds good. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with corporate banking, the global playground.
All right, so corporate banking, this is where they're catering to those meiji players we were talking about, providing all sorts of financial services.
So it's a high-stakes world dealing with corporations, governments, and huge sums of money. How are they doing in this area?
Well, their corporate banking segment is consistently bringing in a big chunk of their overall revenue. They're clearly doing something right.
What are some of their key activities?
Think corporate loans. Businesses need those to expand, make acquisitions, or just manage their day-to-day finances.
And we're not talking small change here, right?
Nope, we're talking millions, sometimes even billions of dollars.
That's a lot of zeros.
It is. And then there's trade finance, which is all about facilitating international trade transactions. Given China's role in global manufacturing, this is huge for ICBC.
So they're helping businesses navigate the whole import-export maze.
Exactly. They're handling things like letters of credit, currency exchange, and all those risks that come with international trade. They've built a solid reputation in this area.
That sounds pretty complex.
It is. And they're also managing big money for corporations through their wealth management services.
So helping these companies make smart investment decisions.
That's the idea. Making that money work harder for them.
Sounds like they've got a lot going on in corporate banking,
Yeah,
but they must face some challenges in this space, right?
of course. One of the biggest is competition. They're up against other global banks, many of them aggressively expanding into China and other emerging markets.
So ICBC can't just sit back and relax. They have to keep innovating to stay competitive.
Right. They have to offer those top-notch services to stay ahead of the pack.
What other challenges are they dealing with?
Well, the regulatory landscape is always changing. Governments are constantly tweaking financial regulations, which can add complexity and costs to doing business.
I bet that's a headache to keep up with.
It is. ICBC has to stay agile and adapt quickly to stay competitive. And then there's always the inherent risks associated with lending to certain countries or industries, some more vulnerable to economic downturns or, geopolitical instability.
So how do they manage those risks?
They've got sophisticated risk management systems in place to assess creditworthiness and manage their overall exposure.
So they're not just throwing money at any deal that comes along.
Nope. They're making calculated decisions. It's a measured approach, which is essential in the world of international finance.
That makes sense. Now let's shift gears and talk about their personal banking segment.
Sounds good. This is where things get a little more relatable for our listeners.
Exactly. It's all about how ICBC aims to be the no one choice for everyday people, offering a whole range of financial services.
Right. They want to be your financial partner, helping you from your first bank account to planning for retirement.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into the world of personal finance. Tell me more.
It's interesting, ICBC's approach to personal banking isn't just about those traditional products.
You mean like checking and savings accounts?
Exactly. They want to be your go-to for everything, a true financial partner throughout your life.
So it's about more than just parking your money. It's about growing it, managing it, planning for the future.
Exactly. And one area they're doing really well in is wealth management. They've got a wide range of investment products and services.
Okay, so who are these wealth management services for?
They're trying to cater to everyone, from those who are just starting out to those seasoned investors.
So whether you're a beginner or a pro, they've got you covered.
Right. They're offering everything from those basic savings products to those sophisticated investment portfolios. And they want to make wealth management more accessible, less intimidating.
Personalized advice is key, though, right?
Yeah.
Especially for people who aren't investment gurus.
Absolutely. They provide personalized advice to help customers make smart decisions about their investments.
So it's not just about throwing products at people, it's about guiding them.
Exactly. And they're good at it. They've consistently been ranked among the top wealth management providers in China and the Asia-Pacific region.
That's a pretty solid track record. Now let's talk about consumer finance. What kind of products are we talking about here?
It's a broad range. They're offering personal loans.
For things like what?
Think home renovations, car purchases, maybe a dream vacation.
Okay, so those bigger ticket items.
Exactly. And of course, they offer credit cards with various perks and rewards,
So they're really tapping into that consumer market.
especially in China, where disposable incomes are on the rise.
Right, so people have more money to spend and need ways to manage it, borrow if they need to, maybe even treat themselves a little.
You got it. And ICBC is definitely well positioned to capitalize on that trend. They're constantly innovating, too, introducing those new products and services to keep up with those changing needs.
Okay, so we touched on their digital transformation efforts earlier. I'd love to dig a little deeper into that.
That's it.
How are they using technology to improve that customer experience, especially when it comes to personal banking?
This is where they're really shining. They've poured a lot of resources into their digital platforms.
And we're talking about their mobile banking app in particular.
That's the one. It's really user-friendly, packed with features to make banking easy and accessible.
So I can manage my accounts, make
Yeah.
payments, even invest, all from my phone.
Exactly. It's about being able to bank anywhere, anytime.
Convenience is king these days.
It really is, and ICBC gets that. They understand that we're all glued to our smartphones.
So they've turned their app into a comprehensive financial hub. That's smart.
It is, and it's gotten them noticed. They've even won awards for their digital banking.
Like what?
Well, they were named Digital Bank of the Year, China, by The Asset.
Awards are nice, but it's really about how these tools actually improve people's lives, right?
Absolutely. Imagine being able to deposit a check by just taking a picture with your phone.
That would be amazing.
Right. Or getting those instant notifications about your account activity. Small things, but they can make a big difference.
Definitely. Okay, let's move on to a topic that I know is on a lot of people's minds these days. Pension planning.
Yeah.
How is ICBC helping people prepare for retirement?
This is a big one, especially given the aging population in China.
Right. People are living longer,
Yeah.
and they need to make sure they have enough money to enjoy those retirement years.
Exactly. So ICBC is taking a multifaceted approach, offering a bunch of different products and services to help people build a secure financial future.
Like what?
Well, they're really promoting those personal pension accounts.
Okay, what are those?
They're basically tax-advantaged savings plans specifically designed for retirement.
So incentivizing people to save for the future.
Exactly. And then they offer a range of different investment products that can help people grow those retirement savings over time.
Right, because just saving isn't enough. You need to invest that money wisely to keep up with inflation and, make sure it lasts.
Exactly. And they understand that retirement planning can be complex.
Overwhelming, even.
Totally. So they offer educational resources and that personalized advice to help people make informed decisions.
So it's not just about selling products, it's about education and guidance.
Right. They're really trying to create a comprehensive ecosystem for personal finance.
So from those everyday needs to that long-term planning.
Exactly. They want to be your trusted partner every step of the way.
And they're using technology to streamline that experience.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of making finance more accessible, let's talk about their efforts in promoting financial inclusion.
Right, because not everyone has equal access to financial services.
Exactly. And this is where ICBC's initiatives are really impressive. They're expanding their branch network into those rural areas,
Try to reach those underserved communities.
Exactly. And they're also developing specific products and services tailored to the needs of low-income individuals and small businesses.
Okay, so it's about empowering those who haven't traditionally had easy access to financial services.
Exactly. And technology plays a big role here. They're leveraging those mobile banking platforms and other digital tools to reach people who might not be able to get to a branch easily.
That's smart, using innovation to bridge the gap.
It's a win-win. It's socially responsible and it's good for business. They're expanding their customer base and tapping into new markets.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground with personal banking. Let's move on to an area that's a little more mysterious. Treasury operations.
Okay, ready to go behind the curtain.
Absolutely. I'm curious to learn more about this behind-the-scenes world.
This is where ICBC manages its own assets and liabilities. They're ensuring liquidity, making those strategic decisions about investing their funds.
So this is where the big financial decisions are made.
You got it. It's all about keeping the money flowing and making sure the bank is financially sound.
So it's not just about counting money in a vault.
No, it's way more dynamic than that. They're managing cash reserves, trading securities, navigating interest rate risks, and so much more.
It sounds complex.
It is. So what do you want to know about treasury operations? Well, one way is through dividends. Remember we touched on those earlier.
Right, those lovely little payouts. Remind me what ICBC is proposing.
They're proposing a cash dividend of RMB 3.064 pre-tax for every 10 shares you hold. So basically, if you own ICBC stock, you get a piece of their profits.
Cash in my pocket, always nice. And we talked about those share buybacks, too, another way they can potentially return value to shareholders. How do those work again?
So even though the 2023 report doesn't specifically lay out plans for buybacks, it's something they've done before. Basically, if they buy back some of their own shares, it reduces the number out there in the market.
Okay, and what does that do for shareholders?
It can increase the value of those remaining shares, which is good news for those who are already holding the stock.
Right, makes sense. So those are some more immediate ways they create value. But what about the long game? What are their strategies for long-term growth to keep creating shareholder value down the line?
Well, that's where their big investments in digital transformation and green finance come in, remember?
Right. Those were big themes throughout the report.
They're really pushing to make banking as seamless and convenient as possible, especially with that mobile banking app. It's all about attracting and keeping customers in today's digital world.
Yeah, got to keep up with the times. And that commitment to green finance, it seems like more than just a PR move.
Totally. They're backing it up with real action, financing renewable energy, green infrastructure, promoting those sustainable business practices.
So they're appealing to investors who care about those ESG factors.
Exactly. Profitability and responsibility, kind of a 2-for-1.
I like it. Okay, so we've looked at their business segments, financials, and plans for creating shareholder value. Big picture. What's your overall take on ICBC moving forward? What are their strengths, and what potential challenges do they face?
Overall, I think they're in a pretty enviable position. They've got a solid financial base, a diverse set of businesses, a clear focus on innovation, and that global reach that very few banks can match.
Sounds like they're in a good spot.
Yeah.
But no company's perfect, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the things they need to keep an eye on, some potential bumps in the road?
Well, there's always that uncertainty in the global economy, right? You've got geopolitical tensions, trade wars, those fluctuating commodity prices, all those things can have an impact. They need to be ready to adjust quickly as things change.
So stay agile.
Exactly. And of course, there's always competition. Other banks, both in China and globally, are also stepping up their game, investing in tech and expanding their reach.
So ICBC can't afford to get complacent.
Nope, got to keep pushing forward. And they'll need to stay on top of those regulatory changes, too, both in China and those other markets where they operate.
Always something to watch out for.
It's true.
Well, it sounds like they have their work cut out for them, but they also have a lot of opportunities. Any final thoughts for our listeners as they dig into this report themselves and think about ICBC's future?
I think it's interesting to think about how ICBC is navigating that relationship between China and the rest of the world. It's a complex landscape, and understanding how they're managing those geopolitical risks and opportunities tied to their strong presence in China is key.
That's a great point. It's a reminder that what happens globally can have a big impact, even on the biggest companies.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for walking us through the ICBC Annual Report 2023. It's been a fascinating look into the world of global finance.
It has. Always a pleasure.
And for our listeners, we encourage you to dive into the report yourselves and see what you discover. There's a lot to unpack, and we just scratched the surface. Until next time, keep exploring and keep diving deep.